Welcome back. We now sit down with a board member of the newly elected National Youth Council board as they step into a pivotal role following a period of significant upheaval within the organization. Recently, the NYC faced serious allegations leading to the dismissal of the previous board. Tonight, we delve into the pressing issues at hand, explore the vision for the future of the NYC, and discuss the immediate actions planned to address the concerns raised by the ministry. Joining us is Luciano Kambala, board member of the new NYC board. Luciano, good evening.
Good evening, Nina. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for taking time out to join us. I know you're fresh off the road.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got here safely. Let's start, Luciano, with the meeting that took place on December 15th at Rietfontein. The minister did, in fact, halt this meeting. So talk to us about how and why the decision was taken to forge ahead.
Yes, so Nina, the General Assembly is the highest decision-making body of the National Youth Council. General Assembly meets every 4 years. It's mandated by the Act to meet every 4 years, and who attends that meeting is also very clear in Section 5 of the Act. The minister had given a directive to the board she dismissed or dissolved, and that directive, in our view as young people, was unlawful. And it reached us when we were already in Rietfontein that she had dismissed the board, which we can't obviously get into because it's a matter in court. But as young people, we were already in Rietfontein. The General Assembly is mandated to have 4 delegates from 53 national affiliates, 4 delegates from 14 regions, and the 9 board members.
Right.
Of all these people that make up around 277 delegates in total, the only people that were not there were the 8 or 9 board members that were removed. So the meeting had quorum. There was no reason in our view for us as young people there not to get into the meeting. Additionally, the Act of the Council provides for what must happen for the meeting to go on. And I believe we fulfilled those requirements in order to ensure that we were still operating within the ambit of the law. The Act says that the executive chairperson presides over the meeting. So the executive chairperson of the council, the former executive chairperson, Ms. Sherenice Bush, was duly elected to go to Parliament, and because of that, she had to resign.
Right.
Yes, so Section 29 of the National Youth Council Act provides that in the event that the executive chairperson resigns, there must be a General Assembly to elect a person to complete the portion of her term that, that remains uncompleted. Seeing that we were already now gathered in Rietfontein with an approved agenda for General Assembly, which was approved by the Representative Council, which is the second highest decision-making body, and also having already received logistical arrangements, having already had everything put in place by the board that was dismissed, we saw that there was nothing to hold us behind. We discussed it, and young people all agreed that let's fulfill the requirements of the Act to fill the vacancy of the executive chairperson who presides over General Assembly, have that person instated, and then have them start the meeting. And we started our meeting and got into the agenda as it was approved by the Representative Council. Additionally, Nina, the minister had already approved the timelines of when the General Assembly needed to happen, the guidelines that needed to be used for the General Assembly to elect new office bearers, amongst other logistical issues, also including the budget for the General Assembly, which is around 2.5 million that was paid over from the ministry. So all these commitments, in our view, were also an indication that whatever it is that has now brought the minister to have a 360 and not want to continue is irrelevant, and also that because it's unlawful, her instruction, there's nothing that should have stopped us from continuing.
We'll get into the nitty-gritties in just a second, but talk to us about what resolutions emerged from this assembly.
So the first one, obviously, is the election of the office bearers as mandated by Section 14 of the Act and Section 27. We elected the executive chairperson in the form of Simon Tapopi, who was unopposed. And I want to also emphasize that nominations for office bearers were submitted in advance. So you don't have anyone who comes out of the blue that comes without getting vetted by the electoral committee and all of that.
Right.
So those that were vying for board positions and the executive chairperson positions had already had their nominations submitted with the necessary supporting documents as required by the approved guidelines. So the first order of business was to elect the leadership as mandated by Section 5, Section 5, 7, 6, and 27 of the Act, and 14. And we have, like I said, Simon Tapopi, who has been elected as the executive chairperson, and 5 board members, myself, Luciano Kambala, Veparura Kandikirira, Sharon Yolande Sabata, Esther Simon, and Melinda Mokhotse. Yeah, that was the first order of business. After that, we delved into some of the issues affecting young people, the high unemployment rate, the issues around education and the quality thereof, and the access to education, the access to opportunities, funding for youth entrepreneurs, amongst many other issues that were discussed. Also, issues that came from marginalized communities who are represented at National Youth Council, and youth with disabilities. So we went into a lot of these issues, and we made a lot of resolutions around them, but they will be captured in the report and the press release that will be coming out soon over the next few days.
I understand that the minister has since also appointed her own board in the interim. So do you think that the newly allocated positions in elections will be upheld?
Well, Nina, that's, I think, also a matter that I can't answer. I think in our view, we did what was right, well within the ambit of the law, followed the Act of Council as we should have, and the appointments that the minister has made cannot really be taken serious by anybody, but that's a discussion for another day. I think I want to just emphasize on something. So the way the Act of Council was set up and the way the National Youth Council was set up is that young people must elect those that will lead council and those that will oversee its operations. That is your board members, the 5 people, and the executive chairperson, who's a full-time person in office. The Act and the founders of the council, in their infinite wisdom, already had made provisions of what needs to happen in the event that people resign or they're removed. And all those provisions make it such that you must fill these positions through young people still voting for whoever gets into office. So, for example, with the removal, with board members, when they are removed, your representative council, which is the second highest decision-making body, is mandated to fill those vacancies for the remainder of the term, which means, again, the law is asking you to go back to young people and ask them who must be board members before you appoint them. While I can't speak to the legality of what the minister did, because she relied obviously on PEGA, it could be also just that maybe we have different understandings. Yeah.
Well, the allegations against the former NYC board is quite serious. Allegations of dishonesty, fund mismanagement, there's quite a few. As the new board, as instituted by, as per your mandate, what immediate steps would you be looking to take to address these very serious matters?
So, Nina, and it's quite, I don't want to say laughable, but it is, that the minister is bringing this up now, because these are issues that have been raised over the years. The last 2 years specifically. And they've been brought to us at representative council level, so because some of us were members of the representative council before now being voted to the board. And we've dissected some of these issues, and at our representative council meeting held in July at Grossbarmen, we resolved, I think not Grossbarmen, in Ondangwa actually, earlier this year, we had resolved that the Board of Council must look at those issues. And it's important that I highlight that the board doesn't shouldn't be in any well-constituted entity be involved in administrative issues. Most of these issues of maladministration and mismanagement of funds are administrative issues. These are responsibilities vested in the Director of Council, who is essentially the CEO. What we see here, and I'll get to answering your question properly now, is that maybe there's also some sort of misunderstanding, because the Director of Council, who was already accused of most of these allegations by the board and was brought to us at Representative Council, has since been on suspension, and there's an acting director. There's an active investigation, a forensic investigation being carried out by PwC on these allegations. So it would also not be right for me to speak on those allegations now.
When did this investigation with PwC start?
It should have started, if not 2-3 months ago. Because it was reported to us as members of the Representative Council that board has instituted investigation into these allegations, and PwC will present their findings once they are completed. And I do believe that they will soon be done with that, and we will have that report before the end of the year. So yes, they're serious allegations, and no one takes them lightly, and I don't think anyone should, because these are state funds, these are state resources, and it's an institution that is aimed and should be benefiting young people, which we all know National Youth Council hasn't been. It hasn't been visible, it hasn't been doing what it should be doing to serve the Namibian youth.
Yeah. Well, just lastly, where to from here? There is, of course, an urgent application that now rests with the court. What are the next steps going forward?
So we are ready to get into office and do the work that we need to do. We'll have our meetings and engage with the minister also she'll be presented with a report of the electoral committee and decide what to do with that report when it gets to her desk. I can't preempt what she'll do, seeing that she has an interim board appointed. But also the court ruling will be provided to all of us, I think, on Thursday, as per the last sitting of that hearing. So we'll get the hearing, hear what they have to say, but we are focused on what General Assembly has mandated us to do. We're focused on trying to rebuild and restructure National Youth Council, because it's so sad that this institution that is so core to youth development in this country has not been doing its job. It has been embroiled in internal fights and a lot of unnecessary drama that has nothing to do with serving the Namibian youth. We are dedicated to rebranding and reshaping how young people see the National Youth Council, because it's also sad that a lot of young people don't actually know that the National Youth Council exists and what its mandate is.
Luciano, all the best. Thank you so much for being here this evening and speaking to us. We do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
When we come back after this brief break, our conversations here on the Daily Roundup with Nina continues. Stay with us.